So I was on a podcast this last week with the boys from the Wilderness Locals up in Canada, and the topic of backcountry hygiene came up. And the more we talked about it, the more I realized it's not a topic that's often discussed very often. And sometimes it's these small details that can really make or break a trip when we're going into the wilderness. And, we don't want to make ourselves sick or degrade our health from poor planning or laziness. We have enough stacked against us when we go out there. So I thought that I would cover just a few things, and believe me, I've made every one of these mistakes or seen these mistakes made often. And I've got a funny story, I'm sure, an embarrassing story about every one, but I thought I would just review some of the more common ones. And so the first one is sunscreen. I've been doing a lot of training hikes. I've been trying to do them in the middle of the day to try to, get myself used to being out there, grinding it out, trying to get ready for season. And, we've got to cover up. We have to cover up with clothing, but we also have to make sure that we're covering up with sunscreen. If you get a really bad burn because you're sitting behind the glass all day and you haven't covered up or put sunscreen on, that's going to force you out of the mountains. The next one, and probably the biggest one, is dirty hands. So people don't want to talk about this, but our hands get dirty from a lot of things. From taking a dump every morning, to cutting up a bowl, to having our hands potentially in dirty water as we're walking through or processing that water. And if we don't wipe our hands down with a baby wipe after we go to the bathroom or do these different chores, and then we go and eat and we start putting food in our mouth and we start biting on our nail, we are literally going to make ourselves sick from our own shit. And so, it's not something people want to talk about, but I've seen it happen, unfortunately. And so, this is why oftentimes I've left toilet paper behind to bring baby wipes, because the baby wipes, help me clean up better. I can clean my hands. I can, have one a day to clean my hands, in the morning, something like that. But it helps me stay healthy out there when I'm trying to do everything I can, to stack the odds in my favor. The other one's a dirty cook pot. So I've talked a lot about field stripping meals, putting these meals in Ziploc bags, pouring the water in the bag and eating out of the bag. I've seen people pour the contents of dehydrated meals in a cook pot with the water and kind of eat out of the cook pot, and then they don't clean it, or they clean it but their hands are dirty, and so you can kind of see where this goes. And so if you're going to eat out of the pot, which I do not suggest, you've got to make sure you clean that pot, and you can't clean it with unfiltered or unpurified water. The other one that nobody really wants to talk about is the chafing that happens when you're out there and it's hot and you have cricket thighs like mine and they're rubbing together. Again, the baby wipe helps clean yourself up when you do your daily constitution. But if you need to, every 3 to 5 days, and everybody's going to be a little different, if you bring a little of this anti-chafing powder with you and put it between your ass cheeks, put it down your shorts, it's going to help. It's going to make you feel better. It's going to help you focus. You're not going to chafe, and you are going to feel refreshed even though you don't take a full shower. The next one is blisters. So if you get blisters, you need to stop immediately and treat that blister for 2 reasons. One, that blister is only going to get worse. The second is that blister is going to get very painful. And third, depending on what you're doing, where you're doing it, again, touching your hands or touching your blister with dirty hands, especially if it's a real, big blister, it's got a flap or something, you're going to, again, potentially infect yourself, and that blister is going to get even worse if it gets infected. So we want to stop. We want to treat those blisters. I should probably do a video just on blister care, but we definitely want to take care of those. We also want to take care of any cuts, especially if we get cut while we're processing an animal. You want to have some disinfectant wipes. You want to have some alcohol swabs. You want to have some iodine, something like that. You want to immediately treat those cuts. You don't want those cuts to fester and become an infection and then potentially become some type of crisis situation. The next one is water treatment. So, I'm going to do a whole series on water treatment, but whatever it is, we have to make sure that we're treating our backcountry water. And that has to do not just with the water we're going to treat to put in our meals and to drink, but also if we're going to clean anything, we want to make sure that water is treated and treated properly. The next one is cooking utensils. So this spoon. So I'm going to eat with this, once a day, and then I'm just going to kind of lick it and throw it back in the bag. But again, if you have a baby wipe, you can wipe this down. Utensils and clean hands are going to be the two best things you can do to stop yourself or prevent yourself from getting sick in the backcountry. And the last one, and we kind of went back and forth about this on that Wilderness Locals podcast, is brushing your teeth. Now, there were times when I didn't brush my teeth. I don't know why, but I realized if I'm spending 150 days in the field and those 150 nights I'm not brushing my teeth, all that did was set me up for cavities, right? So it doesn't take much to bring a small little toothbrush if you want to cut the handle, if you think that's going to matter for size, or get a little travel toothbrush and just a little bit of toothpaste. We talked about on the podcast about how you could put little dab of toothpaste in between different layers of wax paper, whatever it is. Not only is it going to make your mouth clean and prevent you from getting cavities in the future, but it's amazing what just brushing your teeth can do to your morale when you're out there, you're tired, you're getting beat down by the elements, you're getting beat down by the animals. All these things are really going to help us, focus and do better. And finally, the last one is socks. So I've talked a lot about socks, but changing your socks every day. It's been really hot here. I come back from a hike, my socks are soaked. You have to make sure that you try to dry your boots out. You take those socks off, you dry those socks out, you dry your feet. If you need to powder your feet or use an antiperspirant on your feet, again, treat any blisters or hot spots. Foot health, foot hygiene with clean socks is absolutely critical. Without our feet, we cannot move around the backcountry and we become a liability. So, don't be a total savage out there. As much as I love to go full indage sometimes, we still have to make sure that we are taking some just basic precautions and making sure that our backcountry hygiene is where it needs to be so that we're not kicking our own ass out there and we're staying healthy so we can be successful this fall.